Gunther Stoll was unemployed at the time of the events that occurred on the night of October 25th, 1984. He had previously worked as a food engineer and lived in the small German village of Anshausen. In the months before the night in question, he had been, according to his wife, showing signs of mental illness. His neighbours, however, described him as a normal person. She has said that Gunther was notably nervous and talked of a mysterious, and I quote, them and they, who wanted him dead. He never mentioned who they were or what their motive was. On the evening of the 25th of October, Gunther ranted and raved, saying he couldn't tolerate the strain of his position anymore. After these signs of distress, his wife said he took a seat and entered what appeared to be a period of contemplation for an extended period of time. Suddenly, he jumped up and uttered the words, "I've got it." He grabbed a pen and paper and wrote down the following. No sooner had he done this, he shook his head irritably, crossed out the letters, and discarded the scrap of paper. This piece of information was obtained some days later, when his wife remembered the scene while being interviewed by police. The paper on which he had wrote the cryptic letters was no longer available. We will come back to this piece of information later. After this, he left his house and travelled 6 miles to a pub he often frequented, called the Papillon in Wilhelmsdorf. It was approximately 11 p.m. Gunther ordered a beer, however before drinking it, he fell onto the ground and sustained superficial injuries to his face. Staff members and patrons quickly run to aid him, and he shortly came to, stating that he had simply blacked out. The bartender gave him a drink of schnapps, which he drank. He then left the pub and got into his Volkswagen Golf. It was around 11:30 p.m. when he left. We don't know where he went or what he did for the next hour and a half, but he turns up in the town he grew up in, Heiger-Seelbach, on the 26th of October at 1 a.m. It is a 15-minute drive from the Papillon pub. His mother and brothers live in the town, but rather than going to one of their houses, he knocks on the door of his mother's neighbour, an elderly woman of 76. She opened her bedroom window rather than answer the front door at that hour of the night. She later told police that Gunther shouted the following up to her.
"Something else is going to happen tonight. Something really terrible."
Other reports mention he commented vaguely about a horrible incident. The elderly lady told him he shouldn't drive home. She believed him to be intoxicated. Her advice to him was that he should go to his parents, but Gunther left. 2 hours would pass before 2 truckers came across an accident on Autobahn 45 south of Hagen and 40 miles north of the last place he was seen. The car was on an embankment of the Hagen Sud exit. The truckers stopped to see if they could be of any help. One states that he saw someone walking around the car, but this person was nowhere to be seen when they finally got to the site of the accident. The men state that he was a young blonde man. He had a white jacket, and they also noticed that the person had a bloody arm. This individual walked towards the nearest exit. Police were called, and the men went back to survey the scene further. They noticed a naked and badly injured man in the passenger seat of the Volkswagen Golf. He is covered in dirt and leaves. It was Gunther Stoll. His left arm has nearly been severed from his torso, the keys to the car are on the dashboard, and his shoes are in the passenger footwell. He was capable of telling them the following. There were 4 of them. They are not my friends, and now they have gone. I want to go too. No further information was gained because he was taken from the scene by authorities and died en route to the hospital. An autopsy would reveal he had no alcohol or drugs in his system. It would also bring to light a number of bizarre anomalies. Coroners concluded that he had already been run over, while naked, at another location. From German reports, it suggested that the car that ran over him was not his own. Only after this was he driven to the accident scene in his own car. During the investigation, witnesses came forward, saying they'd seen a hitchhiker close to the scene. He was looking for a lift in the opposite direction at a nearby exit. He has never been located, neither has the young blonde man seen looking around the car and walking away from the scene. What we do know is that after seeing the old lady, he drove somewhere else, where he encountered people who intentionally or accidentally ran him over. The fact that he was naked is extremely odd. We've seen no reason given for this detail. All we know is that he was naked when he was run over. Did he take off his own clothes, or did somebody else? From the information we have, the people responsible placed him in the passenger seat and brought him to the location where he was found. But what caused the car to crash? Was it purposefully done to hide the cause of his injuries, or was it an accident too? It seems hard to believe that after running him over, they decided to crash his car. Surely they would have known that an autopsy would reveal he was not killed in the accident. He was also found in the passenger seat, which lends little credibility to the idea that they did this on purpose. Were they on their way to the hospital, or was the person or persons bringing Stoll somewhere where they could dispose of him? When it comes to the idea that the journey may have been an attempt to save him, we have to ask, why leave the scene? The second question seems as implausible as the first. If he has been intentionally or accidentally ran over, and for whatever reason, it's decided that it would be best just to get rid of him, why would they put an injured man in the car? To speak plainly, why wouldn't a person just finish the job, rather than run the risk of transiting a naked man around at 3 o'clock in the morning? After all, he must have known his life was in danger, and he therefore posed a risk to those doing the ferrying. For all we know, the accident may have been caused by his desperate attempts to survive. If we look at the possibilities, we might start off with the idea that he was suffering from some sort of mental breakdown. The fact that he prophetically mentioned an impending doom has led some to believe that it was a staged suicide. But there is too many other details which make this theory at best implausible, at worst absurd. The website Dark Ideas has an article on the case, and they point to cases where people have ran over themselves, strange as that may seem, but they also raise a number of salient points. None of these people are as badly injured as Günther Stoll was. None of these people get into the car and drive, especially when one of their arms is so badly severed it is on the verge of being disconnected from their torso. And lastly, we have reports of a man walking around the car and then away from the scene. This man has to have been the driver or other occupant. Many over the years have said the letters wrote on the slip of paper is a code. Others have said it is a license plate. The license plate theory has been dismissed by many because German license plates are made up of a code signifying a city and are followed up by a random arrangement of letters and numbers. None of the city codes begin with the letter Y, apart from those associated with the armed forces. Some have gone down this route, but it has led nowhere definitive. Others have said that the letters can be changed into numbers that may be coordinates, a phone number, or some other code. For us, it's a rabbit hole. The only thing that can be said about the note is that police never saw it, and therefore we don't know if the description of it is even accurate. What we do know is that it was related to something that was causing him a great deal of distress in the days and weeks leading up to his death. This would indicate that he maybe did have information that was dangerous to possess. As the site Dark Ideas states, there is a chance that he was targeted in a case of mistaken identity, his predictions being a complete coincidence. But this note points away from that theory. Another question has to be asked. Did the note ever exist? His wife said he wrote something down, but the police never saw this note, because his wife threw it away on the night of his death. Once again, it's hard to say. We have to presume she's telling the truth. After all, his subsequent behaviour tallies with an act such as this. It isn't isolated to his behaviour in the house, meaning her testimony of his strange conduct is corroborated by other witnesses. Either way, the note has proved to be more of a red herring. Some people say it is the registration of a car that was following him before that fateful October night. Others have said it is a Romanian radio code, in which case the G would be a 6. But what could a Romanian radio signal have to do with his death, and what seemed to be strange premonitions of an impending doom? One aspect of the case which seems strange is the disappearance of the man seen loitering around the car when the truckers first noticed the accident. Where did he go? He appears to be injured. We'd have to assume that someone would have seen him after he was witnessed walking up the exitway away from the vehicle. Did somebody in a trailing car pick this man up and lead him away? Did he live close enough to the scene to make it home without anyone seeing him? When it comes to the 4 people Gunther mentions, very little solid information can be gathered. Was he in a state of delirium from blood loss or shock? This may well be the case, but if we take this information to be true, where did they go? We know Gunther was in the passenger seat, so we might presume that there were 3 other individuals in the back seats. We might also ponder the possibility that 1 or more people were in a separate trailing car. This would explain why only 1, possibly 2, if we include the noted hitchhiker, were seen near or leaving the scene, the others having simply drove on when the accident occurred. The occupants of this trailing car may then have picked up the man seen leaving the crash site. In 2015, investigators took another look at the case. Apparently there was DNA evidence taken from the scene. It was considered lost, but Ulrich Kaiser from the Hagen Homicide Squad stated that it had been rediscovered in an evidence room. According to local reports, tests were run, but as of yet, there has been no further updates and the case remains as mysterious as ever. So what do you think? If anyone has further details that we haven't covered, please do let us know. As always, we will finish with a few words about the victim. From what we can gather, the last number of hours, days and weeks were a time of fear. Whether we consider them to be the product of mental illness or something rooted in reality, they made the life of Günther Stoll nightmarish. The physical harm done to him and the immense panic he must have experienced from the horrific injuries incurred can only produce a sense of empathy for another human being lost to time and a family who never had answers to the mysterious events of that night. Once again, thanks to everyone for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do make sure to like, comment, share and subscribe to Mystery Scope. As always, until the next time, take care.